What's up, Rooster Nation? We're back, another episode. Today I'm doing a testimonial for my brokers. They are accepting a select number of new brands, and I've had such a good experience with them that I thought I would do a podcast kind of talking about my experience using brokers, how I approach working with brokers. And if you are looking for a new broker, I really think you should consider the people I'm about to talk about. So my brokers are Marc and Susan Migdal with MIG Consulting is the name of their firm, but they're a husband and wife team based out of Charlotte. They've been my broker for maybe a little over a year and a half. I'm not sure exactly. And they've been great. But before I kind of dive into all that and what I love about them, I want to take you all the way back to the beginning about when I first started considering brokers and, working with brokers. So what happened? I basically, expanded out of the region to about 400 stores, and I started to become bogged down with basically item maintenance with the retailers, item maintenance with the distributors, and a lot of the pitching and following up that was associated with that, right? The buyers, they don't respond to your email right away. You've got to call an email all the time. And there's also all this pressure from the distributor when you get into these new distribution centers, right? We got into 4 or 5 new distribution centers. And now the distributor, UNFI, is like, you got to get the sales up in these accounts and you got to start calling on all of the independents. And I started to get bogged down with all of that work. And I decided I need to start considering a broker. There's only one of me and I need some help. So what did I do? I met with all the big brokers, right? And I'm not going to drop any names, but I met with 3 or 4 leading, bigger natural products brokers in the industry. And my impression was bad news, bad. And here is why. These brokers, the big brokers, they represent a large number of brands. It could be 50, 60, 100 plus brands. And odds are they have 1 or 2 that are going to be their flagship brand, right? It's going to be a product that has mainstream success and they are crushing it. So when they go, they have all their buyer contacts around the country. And when they go meet with their buyers, are they going to be focusing on their flagship product that's doing well for the store, or your product, which is brand new to the market and you're struggling to gain traction? You're going to be at the bottom of the totem pole on that broker's focus. And that's just a fact. And they're going to deny it. And they're going to tell you every brand gets the same amount of attention, but it's just not true. It's human nature. It's business. You need to prioritize your moneymaker, right? Which is going to be your already successful products, not your new items. They were also outrageously expensive. I'm talking like minimum retainers of $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month, $8,000 a month on top of a percentage. And that's just unaffordable for you and me, the people who are listening to this podcast, right? We're the small brands in Boulder, Denver, Colorado, or all around the country trying to make it happen. And we do not have, or at least I don't, $5,000 of cash to be throwing away every month at a broker, where they're not even going to be paying major attention to my items. So, I wrote those people off immediately, but I still felt like I needed a broker. So what did I do? I called one of my buyers. I called the buyer at Earth Fair. His name was Jared. He's since left. He's not with them anymore. But I called Jared and I said, Jared, I really need a broker. It's not that I'm emailing you guys all the time. It's hard to get a response, and I know that's not you. It's that you're inundated with supplier emails, right, and vendor emails, and I need someone to help me with that, and I was hoping that you could make a personal recommendation. And he recommended Marc and Susan Migdal. He'd been working with them for years. They represented a handful of brands that were doing well in Earth Fair, and I decided to give him a call. What was my impression of Marc and Susan on my first go around? First thing they said to me is they don't represent 100 brands. They only take on a small handful of clients, right? They're a husband and wife team, and they fully recognize that they cannot effectively represent 100 brands. So immediately, the first thing they say to me piques my interest, right? I like what I'm hearing because that's already something I'm concerned about from the big brokers. The second thing is they're affordable. They're reasonable. They understand who their clients are. They're small businesses like you and me, playing in this god-awful CPG industry where the cards and the economics are stacked against you. And their price is very affordable. And that was my second takeaway, is that they get my predicament and they don't want to just make a living sucking money out of small businesses to provide no value. Lord knows there's enough of those people out there preying on small businesses like yours and mine. And they're not like that at all. Their pricing was extremely fair. Their contract was extremely simple and straightforward. And, I could cancel any time. They were like, if you're not happy, this relationship can end immediately. You don't need to sign a 6-month, 8-month contract. So all of these things are starting to make me feel more comfortable. And I decide to say yes. And I start my relationship with them. And now I want to tell you a little bit about my experience over the past 18 months or however long it's been working with them. And that's been it's been an extremely positive experience. And I cannot bring that home enough. My impression of their skill set, right, is they know exactly what they are doing in terms of how to communicate with buyers and how to follow up and how to develop and stay on top of a promotion strategy, right, which are the big functions of a broker. So for me, I was in all these new distribution centers, and they immediately started pitching all of the independent retailers that are called on in each distribution center, right? So I'm in Sarasota, and they start calling on the independents themselves and also the distributor sales reps who call on those independents, right? And they know exactly how to reach out. They know how to craft a buyer email. I've talked about this before. A buyer email needs to be short, it needs to be concise, and you cannot have any fluff. And they know exactly how to do it, right? Because they've been doing it for years. They talk to the sales reps, they talk to the independents, and I have a lot of confidence in their ability to pitch my products because they're doing it exactly like I do it. And they didn't need any coaching or, they're not sending long, lengthy, fluffy emails with my brand story and all that because they know buyers don't give a shit, right? And they just have a great level of competence in how to sell it. The other thing that was really bogging me down is all of the paperwork, right? The new item setup forms, the item maintenance forms, navigating, if you are just getting into distribution, navigating the insane amount of programs that the distributors have to offer between the OIs, right? The off-invoice promotions, the MCBs, the scan backs, whether you have to submit it to the distributor and the retailer or just the distributor, how it flows through. It is very consuming. It's very overwhelming. And they've been doing it for years, and they have an expert knowledge on how this stuff works. They're also straightforward with me, right? When the distributor pitches me on some $5,000 marketing program, they'll get on the phone with me and say, Aaron, I think you're going to see absolutely no ROI from this program, and I think you should come back to them and pitch, this other program that'll cost you less money, it'll keep the distributor happy, and it'll be more effective. And I really appreciate that because as I'm, starting this new business, I don't know how to navigate all this. And the pressure from, various distributors can be really heavy to participate in their marketing programs, right? Because that's a cash flow for them, it's a revenue stream for them. But let's not go down that road. You're going to get pressure from the distributors, and they will help guide you in managing that relationship and participating in distributor marketing programs that won't break the bank. And just all of their expertise has been really valuable, and I could not recommend them enough. What have they done for me? They've really crushed it in the independent market and getting those sales up, in those distribution centers where I may have one key account, and then I got to get all the other kind of little markets in the area to help bolster my business in that region. They absolutely crushed that for me. They've also gotten me in touch with some major key accounts, a whole Del Hayes, and all those Giant Eagle. Giant Eagle's not a hold, but I think Giant is a hold. And Stop and Shop and all those, they have contacts there they put me in touch with. Wegmans, H-E-B, Whole Foods, they have all these contacts. And you've talked, if you've heard this podcast before, that I don't accept every opportunity. And, there's a hold. They wanted a lot of slotting fees and things like that. So I didn't necessarily take every opportunity. But they also have the connections to get you into some of these bigger retailers, right? But if the bigger retailer says no, or their category review is 18 months from now, they're not just going to sit back and do nothing, right? They're going to pitch the independents and the smaller chains in that region. Another chain, they just got me Piggly Wiggly out in Wisconsin. That is a conventional chain. That's not natural. And they landed a whole region of Piggly Wigglies for me, and someone who used to work with me just sent me a great photo. They were walking through Piggly Wiggly and saw it on the shelf, and there it was, eye level, 3 SKUs. That was all them. I've never talked to a Piggly Wiggly buyer in my life. So I guess I want to wrap up by saying if they are accepting a select number of new brands and new clients to work with, and if you are interested in working with a broker, if you are experiencing some of the same things that I was talking about, you're overwhelmed by the paperwork and the distributors and the system, or you're focusing on marketing or whatever you're doing, and you need someone to focus on pitching those independents and doing the endless follow-up that's associated with it, I cannot recommend Marc and Susan enough. So I'm going to include their emails in the post when I do this, but if you're interested, please reach out to them, schedule a phone call, hear what they have to say. And I do not recommend vendors or, people I work with lightly. Most people can often be disappointing who you work with, right? They just don't have the follow through. They don't exactly know what they're doing. They really sold themselves, but they're not executing like you want to. And that's not how I feel at all with Marc and Susan. They are really the only vendor I've come on my own podcast to endorse. And they feel like part of my team. I often say how I'm the only one working here, but that's not entirely true, right? I have these people such as Marc and Susan who I've brought in to assist me with a certain facet of the business. And they have my complete faith, my complete trust. And that's why I'm on here recommending them to, Rooster Nation and the people who listen to this podcast. If you need a broker, please consider Marc and Susan Migdal. I'll link to their emails below. And, I hope that this has been helpful. Also, even if you don't use them, thinking about how to approach brokers, right? Don't get sucked in by the big broker just because they have all the right relationships and they rep some big brands, because that's a great sales pitch, but they're going to neglect you very fast. And I've heard this time and time again from people who've had the worst experiences with brokers. That was not me. I've had nothing but good experiences with Marc and Susan. So that's all I got, Rooster Nation. Please give them a call, shoot them an email, and hope you found this helpful. Until next time, this is The Rooster. I'm out of here.